So today I've got two guitars that, while seemingly could not be more different, actually are really close in specs with each other when it comes to their appointments or their pickups and the way they're wired and such as that. The slim taper neck of the Classic over here, this is the Enchanted Forest Burst that Gibson made as a one-off in the mod shop. And over here is just a regular Adam Jones standard. Now, the Les Paul standard at its core, the Adam Jones standard is pretty much just a standard is a standard, right? But this one is a little different because it's kind of modeled after a 79. So it has some appointments that are unique. And of course, the Mystic Forest or Enchanted Forest Burst has some appointments that are unique. Mostly these two share in common their apparently hand-wired electronics. Now, we're going to tear them apart and find out for sure, but the Enchanted Forest Burst has dirty fingers in the neck, or dirty fingers plus in the neck and dirty fingers in the bridge. The Adam Jones has a Burstbucker 1 in the neck and a DC High Gain in the bridge. Now, we know from prior experience with these two guitars that the dirty fingers broadcast at a 15 point something on the output for the Classic, and the DC High Gain did a 16.93 or 16.94 depending on how long you left it on there. And so that means that these two bridge pickups are incredibly similar, within about 1,000 to 1,500 kilo ohms from each other. So the question, or I guess, would be 1.5 kilo ohms of each other. So with that in mind, these two might have a pretty decent similar sound. Like I say, the actual guitars themselves are really just Les Paul's. Mahogany body, mahogany neck. Now, the Adam Jones has an ebony fingerboard, whereas the Classic has a rosewood fretboard. So let's get into these two and find out just exactly how they're wired. Alright, so moment of truth here. I am not really sure exactly what I'm expecting to see in here, because while the guitar does have the dirty fingers pickups installed on it, I don't know if we're going to find the PCB or if it's hand-wired, if it's going to be a hand-wired PCB, if it's going to be a hand-wired standard control layout. So this is going to be a surprise for all of us as I try to get this guy out and see what's behind it. And I'm guessing those are orange drops, because they are bright orange, and these are Gibson pots. I don't see any kind of markings on them anywhere to give us an indicator as to what kind of the pots they are, but that is a regular hand-wired actual layout. I mean, there's a little piece right here that seems like it might be a PCB, so this could be a PCB on the other side of this deal, but for the most part, this is what you would normally consider a standard not the PC modern electronic setup or CTS or anything like that. That is just Gibson pots inside of this setup. So this guitar really is wired just with a standard setup, and Everything looks to be in pretty good shape, though. It's definitely been modified, or let me rephrase that. It's definitely been modified from being a classic like it was when it left the factory or when it was on the assembly line, but it does look like standard Gibson soldering, to be honest with you. That's not the best, but also not the worst. And like I said, there's no quick connect on any of that, so I'm gonna say that's a pretty healthy little upgrade for what is normally a PCB setup on a classic. Now the big question is, what will we find inside of the Adam Jones Les Paul Standard? So I am going to get this off, and wow, so that's really similar. Actually, if it's not exactly identical, it's really similar. These pots are Gibson, and that's really close. If that's not the same setup, then that's really close. Now look at in here though, there's some kind of writing CW, so that's something you don't see every single day. Certainly haven't seen that in any of the guitars we've taken apart before, so maybe that's somebody's initials that we haven't seen before now, but that's might mean something as we get a little bit later on. But so in here, all four of them are Gibson branded pots, and you can see that now this does look more like it's been done on the assembly line, and the other one in the classic looks like it's been done somewhere in the mod shop. So this looks cleaner than what you would see than what we saw on the classic. So it's got the exact same little circuit right here, printed circuit deal in the middle. So same capacitors. I mean, that's really the same. So that's going to really make this all about the pickups. I mean, realistically at this point, we are looking at all the same pots, all the same capacitors, the same control board setup. So realistically, what we're looking, when we hear the sounds out of these two guitars, it's gonna strictly be Dirty Fingers versus Burstbucker 1 and the DC High Gain in this guitar. So the Dirty Fingers Plus in the neck of the classic, as well as the Dirty Fingers in the bridge, and then on this one it is the Burstbucker 1 in the neck and DC High Gain in the bridge. And that will give us a clear decision, or give us some clear idea as to exactly what these two sound like and how the two should compare when you have those pickups in your guitar. So again, same hand wired setup, everything looks to be the same capacitors and everything that you should be able to buy and wire in yourself. So let's get some sound into this. Well, it's hot today because it's Texas in the summertime. So starting off with the classic, again, Enchanted Forest Burst Mod Shop guitar, Dirty Fingers Plus in the neck, Dirty Fingers in the bridge. And like I said, we've discovered that these guitars have essentially the same electronics when it comes to pots and everything. So let's see what it sounds like. Today I've got the Fender 68 reissue twin reverb, and Metal Zone is providing the crunch, but the clean tones are through the basement channel on the 68 twin reverb. we started off in the middle. So when you buy a guitar with dirty fingers, you don't necessarily buy it for the way it sounds in clean tone, but this guitar pulls off clean tones pretty well. And again, you know, these are almost 16,000 at their, you know, 15.94, 15.84, something like that on their outputs. So these are pretty strong pickups. Now, compared to the DC High Gain in the Adam Jones Les Paul, it's a little bit different. That High Gain was, you know, almost 17. That was some hardcore output. So this guitar though really does shine with a little crunch on it. But how does the Adam Jones do on it? Let's go. But clean it up and it does it just fine in the neck. And the bridge. That bridge pickup tries to break up but doesn't quite do it, and that's what I like about that. So I like the way that this guitar's, I like this DC High Gain. This bridge pickup really is hot as a firecracker, but still somehow delivers a really clean tone, even though it's just super hot. Now, when you throw some gain on it, it works like magic. Just go and go and go and go and go. Anyway, so I don't know if you can buy these pickups. I don't think I've heard anything like these pickups before. Someone was talking about the possibility that this DC High Gain was a 500T, but the 500T is a ceramic pickup, and this one is not. And the ceramic pickups, I mean, we had a 500T that was a Voodoo pickup in a 60s Tri-Burst, I believe. So it was a good guitar. I don't have it anymore because it was not quite what I was looking for, and in the end I decided to keep the 58 reissue and then go ahead and get rid of, so I got rid of the other two standards because I couldn't compare it to the R8. So the two other standards were just something I could not bond with after having the R8. But this guitar is a different story. This guitar is automatically a front runner of awesome. And there's little things about this guitar that make it different and really do give a lot of, I mean, like, let's see if we can get this on camera here for the necks. So the volute on the back of this guitar is prevalent, and there is no volute on the back of this one. You can see the difference on these two. This little kick out right here is the volute, and that volute, I don't know if it adds strength. There's rumors that it does. There's rumors that it's just an aesthetic deal, a flashback to 1979 when it was the Norland era. You know, there's all kinds of topics that can be talked about when it comes to these guitars. And I will tell you right now, whatever the magic is strong. And it feels good. It plays incredibly well, and I would give it a massive thumbs up. If you can buy these pickups, this pickup setup, and get it into a classic, because the classic really is at this point in time $800 MSRP lower than a Adam Jones standard sticker price. So $21.99 for the classic and $29.99 at the time of recording for the Adam Jones. Will the Adam Jones stick around? No one knows. The classic seems to be going on its way out, or at least this version of the classic. This particular classic is a little bit different, but the overall specs and everything, the pickups really are the only difference between this classic and a classic you'd get. And we've seen the other classics. Matter of fact, we had the Olive Grab exclusive that had the 61R and 61T, and they were good pickups and good. It was a good guitar, but it just wasn't what I was expecting, and I thought it was. I don't know. I like the Modern better, to be honest with you. I think the Modern has the same kind of switching and the same kind of bypass and all that stuff. Coil taps instead of coil splits, but at the end of the day, it just the classic in its regular form wasn't enough. But this guitar right here, if you could get these pickups and put them into a classic, I think you'd have a pretty amazing guitar for a pretty decent price, because you can probably piece these out at $400 or $500. Figure the price. You can get a used classic for $1,800-ish. So $2,300 out the door, you can get a pretty decent sounding guitar. But if you can afford one of these standards, man, I'm here to tell you, I'm a fan. I think everything about this Adam Jones Les Paul standard is a pretty spot on deal, and I would absolutely recommend one. But that said, the Dirty Fingers Plus and Dirty Fingers also make a strong case, because it all depends on what you're looking for sound-wise. I personally can go either way. I like the way that Adam Jones feels, so I think that in this comparison, I'm going to call it in favor of the Adam Jones, but it's for you to decide. Pick both. Pick a classic up while you still can and see if you like it. Because someplace like Guitar Center or Sweetwater might cut you a smoking deal and get you below $2,000 for it. And that's a pretty good price for a Les Paul. Talk about what you do in the comments. Until next time.